What's up, everybody? Um, just starting out the podcast, struggling with the fucking headphones. It's been crackling like a motherfucker. I need to get a new input plug-in. It sucks. Fucking Guitar Center, man. Just shop at Amazon. I fucking hate Amazon, but yeah, whatever. Fuck Guitar Center now. No, I know people hate on Guitar Center a lot, but I don't know. They're alright. If you need something quick, they're like you have an 85-90% chance of getting it there. It is like probably double the price than what you can get on Amazon. So that's the one thing I always have to bitch about, and it's always less quality. But yeah, whatever. It's Guitar Center, man. If you're not buying guitar, go fuck yourself, I guess. Today on the episode we have David Lopez. We cheated a little bit going away from Iowa. I felt bad. There's this guy I had on the corner. He's actually the first guy. I wanted to make that correction. He's actually technically the first person I've had on the podcast. But he was in another country. I feel like a dick. I can't even remember what country he was from. It was in the UK. But so what I'm gonna say is like he's the first one that is in the U.S. that's outside of Iowa. That's how we're gonna label it. So, but this guy's really cool. I learned a lot about him. He's actually opened up for T-Pain and Childish Gambino, which I thought was really cool. I don't know if I could ever do that. Jesus Christ. Fuck you, kid. Fuck you, Guitar Center. So yeah, I guess without further ado, I'll shut the fuck up and y'all can watch the episode. Listen to the episode. I guess if you're listening to this no, because Jesus fucking Christ. Marijuana. All right. Everybody, David Lopez. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show today, the McAllister Hours. I'm your host, as always, Cole McAllister. We are joined today by, we're stepping outside the grid a little bit, outside the state. We're going to Milwaukee with David Lopez.
Yo, what's up, everybody? How we doing?
How you doing today, man?
I'm really good, man. I'm really good, man. Thank you for having me, and thanks for asking. I'm pretty good. Yeah, like you said, Milwaukee, Chicago, born and raised, but I live in Milwaukee now.
Okay, so what was because I know you've done quite a few things in Chicago. Are you still there doing stuff quite a bit, or what have you transitioned?
No, I'm there all the time. I mean, we just moved. My wife and I just moved like a year ago. We lived in Chicago for the past like 5 years. I've been like back and forth. She's from here, I'm from there, and I'm really only an hour away. So we just shot a music video there a couple weeks ago. I'm probably there once a week, maybe.
Okay. That's damn. So what do you do in the travels? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you music, like just chilling?
I like that you asked. I definitely listen to more podcasts. I mean, I work on music like a lot. Like most of my days I'm like working on music. And I still listen to music a lot, but I definitely listen to podcasts more when I'm like trying to just like relax. So I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, that's the aspect I like about podcasts. I got divorced about a year ago, and I found that like I was at a point where I couldn't really listen to music. Like there are points where it was like almost unbearable to listen to music, and there's something about podcasts where like you're able to like shut your brain off. You know what I mean?
I do kind of know what you mean. Yeah,
like disconnect. So yeah, podcasts. It's good to have both worlds.
No, for sure. Well, I'm wondering why do you say that about music during that tough time? Because I mean, I find that music can sometimes be helpful during a tough time, which by the way, sorry that you had to go through that. But is it because it was too hard to deal with music at the time, or what was the reason?
Well, I think there was probably the emotional aspect in it. I think I also was just depressed and disconnected and didn't really like it. I got to a point where I just had like the same 50 songs on loop, and you just go, you're not. I was with my parents at the time, so I was just getting done with that, and I just didn't really have a lot going on. When you just go through that loop and loop and loop all the time, it gets your take. So I found like, I found Joe Rogan, I found H3 like really early in those days. It was to me just like an endless amount of content. Like I could never get bored. Like I could always go back and listen to an episode of the podcast and spend a good 1 to 3 hours or whatever being entertained.
I actually really can relate to that. Because like, yeah, like you said, there's an endless amount of content. So like, yeah, like when I started listening to like Rogan, like you said, since you said that, I'll go into that. Is like, I had never even thought about a lot of those things that they talked about, whether or not you agree or on either way, it didn't really matter. It's just like, I had never even thought about a lot of those things. And so to like, yeah, I kind of agree. It just like, there was definitely a period of time when I first started listening to podcasts where it was like all I was doing. And I was like geeking out on things that I would never think I would talk about. And then like, now I can like, just see like, oh, it's just a cool way to really like, it's like you said, it's a great way to just like expand your knowledge. Like there's so much shit up there.
Yeah. And I not to get into that too much this early in the episode, but there is something to be said about, how media is these days and how quick cut it is. I think long form podcast offers a way for people to have full conversations without, feeling edited or anything like that. It's really a way for you to take, those two people having conversations way, take in that whole experience.
Well, there's a reason podcasts are resonating so much right now. I really think it's because people are sick of exactly what you just said. It's like, I mean, at the same time, there's a place and time for like, hey, tell me exactly what the news is in 2 minutes. I got to go to work. You know what I mean? Like, I feel that.
Yeah.
But like, people also just want to hear people talk about it like regularly. Like,
yeah, exactly. I think I heard something that like in 2008, 2012, the average Obama voter listened to 4 minutes of politics, or no, they thought about it for 4 minutes every week.
Hey man, I want to go back to a time. I want to go back to a time where that was so second. I mean, you got to remember, like, politics was not talked about like this before. Like, it was just wasn't talked about this much. Like, So I mean, I kind of miss that a little bit. I mean, it's cool being in the know. I'm not saying you shouldn't be in the know, but like, it is kind of nice to have it in the background. Like, as long as you can trust the people that are doing it. Like,
no, I agree. I wish that there was a separation from politics and everything else. It all kind of seems integrated.
For sure. Yeah, no, I feel you, man. I feel it's just a crazy situation.
Crazy times, man. Well, I guess before we get too much further in, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background? You're both a hip hop artist and podcaster, as we've alluded to. What's some of your background? What are your origins?
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks for asking. I'm a musician first. Definitely that drives everything. That's what got this whole thing going. But it's kind of a mix. Yeah, like I went to college. So I started making music like when I was finishing like my senior, well, it was like my senior year of college. I had played basketball my whole life, played basketball in college. So that was winding up. So now if I can look back, I can really see it was like a crossroads period in my life. That's what ended up happening. I took acting classes and started making music. And next thing you know, I was a bartender and just auditioning and writing raps. Like that was just my life. And that's pretty much been my life for like the past 8-10 years. But actually what I should mention is the podcasting thing came in like 3 or 4 years ago where I started doing this, when really the podcasting world was kind of blossoming. I was kind of like, I should hop on this train because it's like an easy way to talk to fans. But also I went to school for sports journalism. So like I did radio shows in college. And like I was like an anchor on the news thing. I never even put it together till later. I'm like, duh, like, why didn't I just do this? Like,
yeah, it's really interesting how things in life, like things in your past all kind of just kind of, come together and they form who you are today. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So this sounds like kind of an amateurish question, but like, have you ever been to Iowa? Have you been to Des Moines where, we are?
Yeah. So, no, it's okay. It's a fair question. I mean, so yeah, growing up, well, not growing up, but in college, one of my close friends went to the University of Iowa. So that's Iowa City.
Okay.
But we used to visit him like regularly because I went to a smaller school. So like visiting Iowa City was like my Big Ten, my big school visit. And so we did that pretty regularly. And then like, I'm trying to think, like I've been to like, Rock Island, which is Illinois, but like Quad Cities area. I've been over there. I've been to, I'm trying to think with Des Moines. I did a show in Des Moines like a year. Like that's the last show I did, I think, before the pandemic, honestly.
Oh, really?
Wait, is vaudeville is that Des Moines? Yep. That's where
they actually closed down, sadly.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah.
That's the last show I actually did. That's the last live performance I did was so that's my only experience there. I think. Maybe I might have been there for basketball, but like didn't explore the city.
So, I mean, obviously Des Moines is a lot smaller. I guess how would you compare the two?
I mean,
like, that's a vast question, but
yeah, just a smaller city. I've been to a lot of small cities, and I'm like, it just that's exactly like what you said. It's a lot slower pace from what I can gather. You know, probably not exactly up to speed. I mean, since you brought up politics, I mean, that's usually a direct correlation between big cities and small cities is like whether or not not necessarily liberal versus conservative, but like just like things that are in the mix and talked about, you know, just like so like yeah, I mean, just like all those things kind of go hand in hand with smaller cities compared to big cities, but I'm used to that. So like
yeah.
I'm used to the mix and I kind of like the mix. I mean, I think it's healthy to have both.
No, I agree. And that's kind of the thing about Des Moines that I've always appreciated is there seems to be like a really good mix versus some of these cities that seem to have bias either way, crazy bias. But like I don't know, is it because Chicago's never really struck me as a city that's really extreme. It seems pretty diverse and pretty cultural. Wouldn't you say?
Super cultural. But I mean, but yeah, super cultural. I don't know. You mean extreme like views or stuff, or like what do you mean? Like
yeah, well, I mean, there's extreme view, people in I think any city, but like, is there like an extreme left bias or like extreme? I don't really like. There are cities I think that kind of allude to that, depending on your demographic. But Chicago, from my understanding, doesn't really seem to.
Well, it's kind of cool because it's a huge city in the Midwest, so like you still get that Midwest feel. So I think you're right. You're right in the sense that like I mean, look, no matter what, it's gonna go left on every vote. Like it just is how it is. That's just how big cities are, and it's like a dominant left. So to your first point, I mean, it is kind of a dominant left vote no matter what. But there really is a down to earth sense of like it's not, like there's still a sense of like we got to wake up and go to work every day, like type shit.
Yeah.
There. So it's a mix. You're right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Des Moines votes, the city, Polk, like I think that votes blue almost every time.
Oh yeah.
So, Des Moines kind of like one of the, liberal, like, one of the blue epicenters in like this huge red. And I grew up in Northwest Iowa. So having both those kind of world is interesting. So what about like your music and because obviously you're a rapper, like what's been some of your music experience working in Chicago, working with other people in Chicago, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a great long adventure, but really it feels like it just keeps going. That's why I love making music. There's no like end point to that. Like you just keep on chugging along. And I started making music when I was in college, which was like in Milwaukee area. So this kind of where it went back and forth. So I started up here. Really, I started like in a bedroom record. Like a lot of people started in a bedroom in college recording with my friend. And like, so my first shit was like really amateur production wise, like really amateur, like engineering wise, like all that stuff. But like, I really like immediately had a strive to like write. I could just tell, like I wrote one poem and the next thing you know, I wrote like a whole mixtape and like this shit wasn't good, but like, I just kept writing. And like I said before, like at the same time, I was also acting. And I think they kind of just both opened me up to a world that I wasn't really, used to as just an athlete my whole life. And so the first couple of years were really just me doing that. What my next step was like, all right, I want to go to a studio and record at a studio and learn to record at a studio and shit. So I started doing that in Chicago at Fast Life Studios, which is no longer there, but it's a different name now, I think. But shout out to Pomone and Amir Tripp. Those guys. So I used to record with those guys. So but I just like for like 2 straight years just tried to learn how to record like better, like just improve on all that. I was still writing and putting out music like the whole time. Like that's the one thing that's been consistent about this. I've been doing a bunch of crazy shit and weird projects, but I've always been making music and putting music out. That's the consistent factor about this. But anyways, I took those 2 years and really just learned. I ended up like spending more money than I should have on like music videos in Los Angeles and like learning to record it and like going to studio. Yeah, like my first album, Preacher's Son, Lonely Days, Champ, and For You. I shot music videos for all 3 of those. All 3 of them we shot in Los Angeles. And I recorded at the studios out there. Like I spent like way more bread than I should have been spending as like a third year artist or whatever I was doing.
Damn.
But all experiences and like by the way, like money that I didn't have. I'm talking about like student loans for I was using credit cards as student loans for rap, like for real. Like, and I'm okay with it. I mean, bet on yourself, you know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, so I went through all that, and now basically full circle to short, like long story short, like I feel like I'm not the best engineer, but now I just like pretty much in-house everything. Like you work with other producers, but I produce a lot of my own shit now. I just record at home and just try to put out as much music as I can, at least lately. And yeah, it's been like a full learning process, but yeah, I don't know. I've worked with a handful of people, to go into your question, because I didn't really answer that. You said, what about like work collaborating with people?
Yeah.
I haven't honestly collaborated with a ton of people. It's funny that I say that because I actually have a song where I'm featuring on that comes out today. But I haven't collaborated with a ton of people. Amir Tripp is somebody that I mentioned. He's like my go-to when I come to Chicago stuff, when I talk about who influenced me and like helped me. Him, Julian Xavier is an artist that I've worked with. Brad Varsity too. Like, I hosted a showcase in Chicago for 2 years where we had comedians and musicians. And so that was like my way to make myself like reach out to people and like start working with other people. And so a lot of those guys reached out. A lot of the guys who've been on the podcast, honestly, are guys that like I have like kind of worked with.
Okay. So you mentioned acting, like I kind of a tangent, but or segue or
I did go on
divergent.
a tangent. I did go on a tangent. I did.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
That I did go on a tangent, but
yeah. So like, what was your acting experience? Like, were you what were you in? Like, how'd you learn to do that? Did you go to school?
Yeah, I took a acting class in college, like my senior year when I had like some electives, and my teacher liked me. I mean, I kind of liked the experience. Anyway, she like had mentioned the idea of maybe me being able to get an agent, and so like I got an agent right away. And I've been in like some little TV appearances. There's a commercial that airs in Wisconsin that like sometimes I'm in, like it's like really short spot. Little things like that, but nothing really big. And in all honesty, I'm not really heavily pursuing that now. Not that there's that much work out there anyways, but I kind of I kind of just like dove into the music pretty much full fledged. But I would get back in acting if it came up.
That's really cool though. I think any artist, any intelligent, broad-minded person, any artist is someone that's willing to try various different things. So I think the people that really make it big, you discover these little things that they did, like little really odd, things like that. So that's really cool, man. Yeah, I was listening to some of your music today.
Oh, thanks.
Really good stuff, man. I was impressed. You have 5 albums. If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So you said you did a lot of that in LA, and like how much of that in LA, how much of that in house? Like, do you work with other producers? Do you make your own beats?
So a strong mix of both. The producing from me is coming a lot more recently, where I'm doing more, but like mostly in the back. So the LA part was Preacher's Son, my first album, was originally going to be an EP. It was going to be like a 6-song EP, and I recorded that whole thing in LA. And then over time, because we just like, I don't know, I just like back then it was a different world. Like you took more time on releasing a single. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing anyways. So long story short, I ended up making a full album because I just had more songs. So it was like half and half in LA and there. And that was, Clayton William is a producer out in LA. He's worked with like big artists like Too Short, like
wow.
I'm trying to think of who else. He's worked with a lot of big artists. I know I'm leaving out E40. I know I'm leaving out people, but I did a couple songs with him. For You, Fuck With This is that's a jam. And then trying to think here. Drumlord is probably the most featured artist that I've ever used. He's from Orlando, and he's a super talented dude, producer and artist himself. He's featured on a lot of my stuff. And then the rest was a lot of production from some online producers, especially back in the day. Like, that's how it was going. Like I was finding beats online. So some of that was E-Word is a producer out of Chicago who I used to use. Like a lot of like just local people that I just knew, and we just like made shit. I'm trying to think. It's definitely like a collection of I mean, I'll put it this way. I spent a lot of money back in the day on beats, whereas now I'm more so just creating.
That's interesting. So do you have like Like, do you have anything you miss about, buying the beat? Like, is there, I guess, is there anything better or worse about that?
Well, I like collaborating with. I mean, I still do like collaborating with people. So I'm not trying to say like I don't want to work with producers because I really do. And,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
people send me shit and like I do. But yeah, for me as I'm like getting older and just discovering things more, like I really care much more about intention when it comes to creating. Like I want to know that you care about creating the best art together and that kind of stuff. And it's really hard to get that with those online producers where you're just buying a beat from or you're leasing a beat from somebody. They have no really care or investment in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not doing a writing split on a record, like you're not even invested in it because you don't even care. You just sent me a beat that you probably are never even going to listen to the final song. It's really hard to get the right intention out of the record. And maybe that's just a point that I've gotten to in my career. Whereas before, I'd just be like, let me rap on it, which I'll still do once in a while, but yeah, I just want to make really good music, and that matters. So it's
So
harder to get that.
yeah, so kind of slowing down more and taking a step back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, yeah, and I think me getting better at stuff probably helps too. Me just like learning how to do things better and
Yeah.
having more time. I mean, having all this time over the pandemic really helped me in that sense. But yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's take more time and just like being more intentional with what I'm doing rather than just like buying some random beats and not really knowing what I'm gonna do with them.
Yeah, I guess that was more my point. Like, because I think there's something that evolves about an artist, like, and I think in the early days, it's a lot of like, oh, I'm going to spend however much on this beat so I can get the license and put this out versus like finding other artists or, doing things yourself on the beat. Like,
Yeah.
there's an evolution there. And it shows in your music. So since college, so how many years would you say you've been doing this then?
So I graduated college 2012. So yeah, I mean that was like, so those first years 2012 to 2015, I released like 4 or 5 mixtapes that are not, you could probably still find them if you really dug, but those are like not really great. And then 2015 is when Preacher's Son came out, so that's like when my discography kind of begins. Yeah, so I mean 9 years, I guess, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a it's an impressive career of of a guy doing rap art and all that.
Yeah.
Have you have any performance experiences like in the city, in Milwaukee, other places,
Yeah.
LA maybe?
Yeah, to go back into kind of what we were talking about earlier with the like spending money and shit, like early on, so like when those first couple music videos were coming out, I mean those did help a lot in like getting me approved for a lot of things, just having like a good aesthetics and good visuals. So like my biggest, I'll just briefly say, is like I opened up for T-Pain in Chicago at Double Door, which was like,
wow.
it wasn't like, I don't want people to think like, oh, T-Pain's people hit me up or nothing like that, but like it was like one of those where you submit and they have to approve you, and then like you have to get tickets and sell the tickets and shit. But like, yeah, it was still a crazy experience. Like it was literally, I opened up for TV. I'll never forget it. So like that, I did the same for Childish Gambino up here in Milwaukee, but I was on the side stage. So it was like those two are the biggest ones, but a lot of those like side stage ones, and then like, so those are the biggest experiences, which were really cool to go through. Like I said, there was money involved, but I mean like, for anybody who was smart enough would know that you would sell those tickets right away. Like I didn't lose money on those shows. So like,
yeah,
but it is essentially that pay to play concept. So it's a weird thing. Those aren't really around anymore as much as far as I know. But when I was like coming up, that was a thing. It was like, you got to get approved to open up for somebody, and then you pay for X amount of tickets, and then you have to sell the tickets too, but there's room for profit and all that. So that's how I got those. So I don't, those were crazy. And then like I just did a bunch of small shows like in Chicago, Milwaukee, like small bar type shows, like yeah, like that was pretty much most of my career.
Damn. So those two experiences with T-Pain, Childish Gambino, would you say that you had like your career like had a boost after that, or was it the same, or what do you think?
I got some like followers and some fans. I also like wasn't the funny thing about a lot of those, and I've heard a lot of the artists say the similar stuff, is like you almost wish those would have happened at a different point in your career, because like I'd be more ready for that. I'd be more prepared. to handle that, I think, in a better way. Not that I didn't handle them well. Like, I think that they went fine. But like I wasn't ready for all that anyways, I don't think. But like no, there was a little boost. There was definitely some like social media like likes and stuff like that and followers. Like it went up a little bit for both those shows. But primarily I think it was just me being comfortable with a big crowd. Like
damn. I think that's not something everybody can deal with. There's a reason I do podcasts and I don't really rap so much anymore. Is like, the thought of performing in front of that many people is insane. So, that's a hell of an experience, man. I don't think very many people can, in percentage wise, I don't think very many people can say they've done something like that.
Yeah, well, I hope we can do it again with our crowd. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Has there been like have you done like any outdoor performances or anything since COVID or anything like that?
No, I actually haven't. I kind of like I know I was open to the idea in the beginning, and then like since everything, I was kind of like I'm just gonna wait. Like I'm just gonna make as much music as I can, try to get this buzz going a little bit, and then hopefully when everything comes back, we just can like really hit the ground running. You know?
Okay. Yeah, I really hope that like a market for outdoor events comes back, because from what they said, it's a pretty safe deal,
Oh yeah,
everybody's, so
I would do it, and I want to do like festivals. I love festival performances and stuff. Those are awesome, and I think you're right. I mean, if you take all the precautions, it seems like that might be the safest bet.
Yeah, because I guess I'm just curious, like, has Chicago at all, like in general, had any how is like the the bar and the music scene, has it opened up at all?
Not. I mean, I think a little
or
bit.
I guess in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably easier for me to answer honestly in Chicago because I go back there and see, and I know more artist friends there, and like I haven't seen that much. I have seen from my comedian friends, comedians that I know that like they have been figuring out ways to do like small shows, whether it be outside or at somebody's place or something like that. They've kind of figured that out. I haven't seen a ton of concerts though, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's been sparse here. I think people in Des Moines have probably taken more risk than a lot of the other places, but I think there's been mixed results. It's kind of interesting. So I guess kind of on that tangent with Des Moines, like looking from like where you're at in your career and like where you've been, what you've done, do you think that Des Moines has any potential in terms of like artistry or like having any kind of potential? I don't know, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean that's hard for me to say. I don't know. I don't know enough of. I think any city does, man. I think there's a ton of talent, and I think we're really seeing that with like. Not that I'm like a huge TikTok person, but I am just gonna say like, you are seeing that there's a lot of young people that are now like getting a bigger platform, like, and I just think that's everywhere. That's like, so I don't even think it's limited to just in these big cities. I think there's super talented people all across the world, really, and I know Des Moines got some of that. So I know that there's probably. And like, I heard somebody else talking recently, like this kind of period, this kind of tough year and tough stretch that we've been going through, like really, really bodes well for like a artistic kind of renaissance. So I just think in general, you're going to see good art coming from everywhere.
Yeah. I like what you're saying about the kind of, playing into like the avenue, like social media and like being able to promote your music through other avenues than just like your city. I think that has a lot of promise for individuals and all that.
Yeah, it's part of the reason I was comfortable with moving from Chicago in a certain regard is that I didn't feel that it was exactly that necessary for me to be physically there at all times to be successful musically. Like I don't know if those directly tie into each other anymore, which is kind of a positive.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So let's transition more into, I guess, into your podcast. And we talked about it a little bit, but I'm curious. I guess I'm trying to understand. Is this your company or someone you work for, the Passion Park Entertainment?
I'm glad you asked because a lot of people are trying to. A lot of people. I like that I leave it kind of vague. Passion Park Entertainment is my production company. So it's the company that I started. Like basically when I was releasing Preacher Son, which was my first album. I was very, for some reason, particular about trying to get the paperwork right and try to figure everything out. And when you're an independent artist, you don't need to like make a publisher or LLC or anything like that. But I wanted to, right? So right away off the bat, so I made a company that's, I guess, technically my publisher right away in 2015. So then I've just had it since. And it's essentially, now that I can kind of understand more like what I've done with it, it's essentially my production company. That's what it is.
That's awesome. So do you like outreach and work with other people, or is it just kind of your stuff, or?
I mean, primarily my stuff, but like I have a lot of people that like help. Like when we used to do the live showcase, I had, shout out to my boy RPM, Kevin, and Michael Rice. Like they used to all help us out in running that. Yeah, my friend is like a DJ who always works with us. So nobody on staff, you know what I mean? But like we have like a team that I would consider like people that closely work with us on everything.
Affiliates, if you're gonna have the proper term, maybe.
I actually was just about to edit the website. I kind of wanted to add a team section. I was going to talk to all the guys and see if they were cool with it. So that's funny that you asked.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really cool, man. That gives, especially having an LLC, I think that gives you extra status and people being able to take you seriously. So you have the David Lopez show, and you have the Passion Park. So you have two different podcast shows, or how many different ones are you involved in?
So the Passion Park Experience was the name of the live show that I did before the live showcase that we did. So what I did was I just brought it back for 10 episodes. It's going to wrap up next week. It's just like one season, or I might do another season, but season one. That show though, the only reason I did that show is because I don't know if you saw or how you distribute your podcast, but I use Anchor, and like they had just released the feature where you could use songs from Spotify in your episode. But then the episodes would only be available on Spotify though.
Okay.
So it was like an exclusive type thing, which is why that show is exclusive to Spotify. But I was like, shit, honestly, I just wanted to try the idea out. I was like, I just want to use it because it's kind of like a radio show. I was like, let's just see how it goes. So we did 10 episodes and so that's what that is. It's a fun show. It basically just takes highlights from the regular interviews that I do for my podcast and just like puts them in the middle of a show and then plays songs. So I don't know. It hasn't been like, honestly, hasn't like been as, not that, views and listens are necessarily the barometer for success when a podcast. It's you got to make sure the show is good in general. But I'm still trying to figure out if that's even the right format, because like people nowadays, I feel like you either want to listen to music or a podcast. It's like one or the other. I don't know if you want the mix anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. There is something to be said about like sometimes you not like with your show it's different because you actually are having like original artists, but like you have those podcasts that just put in like a lot of music. And it's just like
I don't know. I'm like trying to figure it out. Isn't there a point we got away? Isn't there a reason we got away from radio? So I'm like, maybe I don't know. I'm like, maybe whatever. I wanted to try it out either way, so I did the show.
Yeah. No, it's really cool, man. Well, how many episodes are you on? I think you're at.
So for my regular show, my regular podcast, I'm at almost 130. I got to record 129 today or tomorrow. But
damn.
Yeah, so I just the thing about podcasting, I'm sure you've done a lot of episodes. I was looking at your episode list, and like, it's just consistency and holding yourself accountable. Like I don't by any stretch of the imagination say like my podcast is really successful, but like, some weeks get more views than others. Some episodes earlier on had a lot more views and plays. But the point is, like I said, accountability and just having another place to like, for if you have fans, for them to listen, like,
Yeah, exactly. I think there's something to be said about, like you said, that consistency, like having almost like a central hub. You can always rely on the David Lopez show was it every Wednesday?
That's what I'm not great at. I try to do it's either once or twice a week, especially with the interviews, once or twice a week.
Okay.
But I'm definitely not great at having a set day. For a while it was Wednesday or Thursday, and then like sometimes I just do a Tuesday. I don't. I mean, I like having that freedom, which is cool.
Yeah.
But you're right. It having the central hub was really the idea. Was like, because like honestly, it's like what I was saying to somebody recently, like, even if it's 5 people, if it's 10 people, if it's 20 people, if it's 50 people, 100 people, if they're expecting you to release if they're coming back to the place expecting to hear what your perspective is, whether or not it's like a right or wrong answer, it's just your perspective, and they like that, like, you kind of are like I mean, I think there's a level of responsibility to like do your job, like, and just do it. Like,
yeah. especially in the times of the pandemic, you got to be able to be giving consistent content. The people
if that's what you want to, if that's what you want to do.
True. There is different, and I guess that's kind of leads into my bigger point. Is like, that's kind of the beauty of podcasting, is like there are many different ways and venues you can do it. You can do, like a mini series, or, do once every month, or however many times a year. You can go every week or a couple times a week. You can have, this episode with this guy, or, the series of this guy, another show over here, et cetera, et cetera. There's the advent technology. There's so much you can do.
Oh no, it's great. Like, that's why my show, honestly, I'm sure people could, if you saw it and you just looked at, like, basically the concept for my show comes from Joe Rogan. It's just like literally whatever you want from me. It's just like my official podcast. Like, my show turned into a sports show. It wasn't even a sports show at the beginning. It just like evolved into that kind of, and it's just like you said, you can do anything you want on these kind of avenues. So I like it. I think podcasts, it's cool that they took off.
Yeah. It's really weird how it's coincided with everything with COVID too. Like how it's just.
You're right. You're right. It was. You're right. It definitely even boosted even more.
Yeah. You mentioned sports. I've noticed that in your episodes, they always gotta. You always make sure to mention what's going on, and I think basketball is your big one, right? Or like, you mentioned playing in high school. What'd you do in high school?
Yeah, I played high school. I played college as well, Division III, but still I played. Basketball was my whole life, man. It was my entire life. Sports in general, I've always loved sports and can talk about them for a long time. Basketball was my whole life for really like 20, 21 years, or I guess I probably started playing when I was like 4 or 5. So 18, 17 years, something like that. But I was really like, just like very kind of like I am now with music. I was very just like one track minded. Like that was it. Like that was my only focus with basketball. And I loved it. So then transitioning out of it, I kind of wanted to get away from sports. Like when I found music and art, I was like really like I that's why I told people like I was gonna go into sports journalism, but like I wanted to get away from sports because I was like I think there was like something sour with like the way it was ending. I was just like I don't even want to talk about sports. I want to talk about something more important, life and art and all this shit. And now I'm coming full circle and I'm like, well, I want to talk about sports at least once or twice a week. So like it's back in my life.
Yeah, it does offer a good distraction. I've never really been someone who's gotten super into sports. When I was in high school, I was a cross country runner. That was my main thing.
Okay.
But I would say basketball was like the probably the second, in terms of like how far I went, it was probably the one that I went the second furthest in. But in high school, my freshman year, I was a bench warmer the whole year. And there was actually a time where I shot the basket in our own hoop, because that's how they tricked the
right.
That's
all right. That's all right. Did you ever like watching any sports?
Oh yeah, I mean, probably basketball is probably my favorite in terms of watching. I don't know how you feel about football, but I think there's something kind of apish in football, honestly. Like just kind of running for like 10, 20 seconds, throwing a ball, and then like pausing for 2 minutes. Like basketball is like consistent. Like there's athleticism combined with like having to be able to be accurate and like, shoot and, have different, positions and layouts and all that. That was the thing that I was terrible at, remembering the plays. I always got fucking lost. I can never fucking do it, man.
Thank you too much. No, I feel you. I feel like football is like the modern day gladiators, though. Those dudes are just wrecking each other for like just for us to watch, just smashing each other's bones for us to enjoy.
I always enjoyed hockey live. That's always a good one to watch live.
Yeah, I've only seen like one hockey game live, but you're right. That's intense.
It's a different breed of people, man.
Sure,
they're fucking insane out there. Oh, geez. Their face. So I just listened to your last interview with what was the guy's name?
Rob Reese.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. That
dude's great.
Talking about the podcast and the scope podcast. You can't get to everyone, but it was really nice to listen back on that one.
Hey, thanks for listening. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like, I've heard some of your stuff, but like not extensively. And like you said, like the world of podcast, like I don't ever expect. That's the thing. Also, like I don't expect people to listen to my whole episode. I'm just like, if you heard something, you got something from it. I hope so. But it's like, there's just like hours of me talking. I don't like completely.
Yeah.
I get it. But I appreciate you listening to that. Yeah.
Yeah, no. The short attention span of like most of the people on our planet. It's hard for everyone to like go into like the 2-3 hour spectacle. Whenever I put the YouTube uploads, they have like the average viewership, and like I'm lucky if it gets like 8 or 9 minutes.
Oh yeah,
So,
no, yeah, for sure. I feel.
And that's not to say that the guests are poor, that the show is poor. That's just how people are in general. Like people just can't focus on that thing for that long.
No, it's 100% true. Yeah, I don't think but I think people come back. Like I'll come back to a video. That's why I like that YouTube saves where you're at.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, podcasting technology is crazy. I thought it was interesting how he edits, because I'm actually in video production myself.
Oh, for sure.
Des Moines Area Community College. Yeah. So was it he was editing the Lay's commercials for the Super Bowl and stuff like that? I thought that was tight.
Yeah, he's been doing that stuff for a while. That his new music video that just came out, he did some crazy editing on it, but it's doing pretty well too. So yeah, it's dude super successful. I had a video editing assistant video editor job for a couple years here in Chicago, which really helped with my
really.
Yeah, I've had because I mean I edit all my music videos too. So like
oh wow, I didn't know that. Damn, that's cool.
Yeah, I guess I had pretty much everything in house. I mean, I have worked with other people, but recently I edited them all. But anyways, what I was gonna say is I got so much organizational skills from working with people who really work with video stuff, and that's like a huge that's important, man. Organizing all your files and shit, like.
Yes, that's true. I've discovered that myself. It's there's a day and age, I feel like, where you're just not really that into it, and you just kind of let things, clutter up on your desktop, name files, and then you get to it like however many months later, and it's just a shit show. Like you can't let that happen.
I don't let that happen.
Yeah. You can't let that happen when you're like, especially when you're dealing with clients or your own shit.
Right.
It's but yeah, I really love the content that you do. I love the array of things. I think you definitely have a wider range of like that's not the right term, but clientele on the way, like people that come on the show. Like you're definitely someone to look up to, especially for the little guys here in Des Moines.
Well, I mean, I appreciate you saying that. It's very nice of you to say, but I'm sure like, in your own area, because like where I'm, since I'm based out of Chicago and Milwaukee area, like I do know a fair amount of people who do podcasts and do their own. But I'm sure by you're probably one of, only a hand, I don't know about a handful, but not as many as you would have in other cities. So I mean, it's really all about perspective, like in all these situations, and just putting out a good product. But I mean, I appreciate you. Like if there's any tip I can give, like I said, it's consistency and just like holding yourself accountable. Because at the end of the day, you want to enjoy doing the show because you're going to spend the time editing it. You're going to spend the time doing all that. So, I don't know. That's always what I say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great, man. I'm glad you're killing it. I also noticed that you had Obs on recently.
Yeah.
That's my boy. He's cool as fuck.
Yeah, that was a good talk too. We got into some like deeper stuff that I didn't even know, we were going to talk about, but like we actually had some similar interests and stuff like that. No, he was a good dude. Yeah, it was good talking.
Yeah. Me and him have ended up talking quite a bit since our last couple episodes, and he's honestly probably one of the smartest individuals I know. His perspective on everything going on from race, religion, and everything is just so it's just so taking it back and step back. He's really able to look at things in open-minded and wholesome way, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what we saw. We agreed on a lot of actually like kind of religious figures that we talked about and listened to, which was funny for me because I don't always, those are usually just podcasts I listen to just on the low, like whatever. I'm listening to my like spiritual shit or whatever, but he listened to some of the stuff that I did too, and I agree with you. It's that like just zoomed out perspective that I've been going for myself as well, and I think he's tapped into that.
Yeah. One of the things that you guys said that I really picked up on is like there is an inordinate amount of people who are pastor kids who end up becoming, because you're a pastor kid, right? And he is as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely something I noticed. I don't I mean, no, I think there's something to it.
Yeah.
It's a performance, you know what I mean? Like I guess I grew up seeing my mom perform in front of hundreds of people and shit. I never thought about it that way until later, but I mean technically, yeah, it's her words that she wrote too. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, obviously mixed with like the Bible and stuff, but like you know, like, yeah, it's her own sermon, it's her own word, it's her own, it's like my mom's also super like open-minded and like she's like my number one fan as far as like rap goes. So like you like it's kind of funny when you think about it like that. But yeah, no, I think there's something hand in hand that goes in like with because he's also the same church's kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's also a musical element too. Every single week when you're going to church.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I grew up Catholic actually, so I was like involved in all like the you know the little choir stuff, and I you know did like stuff with the guitar. So yeah, there's definitely like there's something like in that culture that's just like attracts musicians. It's you know it's interesting.
Do you still rap at all?
Rap?
Because you said you did, right? You said you.
Yeah. I put out an album earlier last year, Family Portrait. My rap name is McCretin.
I gotta listen to that. But are you still doing it? Because I know you mentioned like the performing hesitation. And stuff.
A little bit. So I'm putting out an EP here in a couple months,
Okay.
but yeah, I definitely performing's always the thing. I feel like you know MF Doom. You know how he always like he would like have people like play him and like he didn't want to perform and all that. Like he's always like fucking shy. Like I feel like if I was a rapper, I'd act like that.
I gotta break it to you. If you put out rap music, you're a rapper. So
Yeah, right.
rapper.
Right. Yeah, true.
But I mean, look,
I guess podcaster slash rapper.
yeah. I mean, you don't. Yeah, it's but that's cool. I gotta check that out, man.
Yeah. It's you know, it's I guess it's always just been an on and off thing for me because I tend to channel like a lot of very negative emotions when I do hip hop, and it kind of it gets to a point where it's like that's kind of the persona that I put out, and putting the energy into that kind of affects my you know my life, my daily activities. Like I find myself being more negative the more I'm like involved in that. So podcasting has been kind of more like a positive avenue for me. I feel like that's like my main focus and prime right now, along with school and working
Yeah.
and all that.
Honestly, I can really feel what you're saying there. Like I mean, I hear what you're saying, at least should I say. Like yeah, I mean, when you dive into it like that for sure, like that's how I felt. Like I felt like a lot of the music I made because I use music as a very therapeutic tool to me. Like writing was very therapeutic for me, is very therapeutic for me. And that's just the way I started. And so like I felt like, especially me, because I kind of feel like I'm pretty positive and pretty bubbly, even though there was a couple of years there where I was probably more on the angry side, but still happy. The music that was coming out was like negative and sad and like, and so like I was, yeah, maybe day to day a little more angry than I normally would be. And yeah, no, I can really I feel what you mean. Like for me, it actually was really important for me to figure out a way to channel like smiling and good energy into my music and like showing that in videos and stuff. Just to show that side of me was actually like was a objective, like a thought. It had to be thought out to do. So I can really relate to what you're saying.
Yeah, no, you know, it's like the you know, it's like negativity breeds negativity. You know, it's just it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, and this I think this is just me being an asshole. Like when I was in high school, people called me negative Norm. Like there's something that's like almost like cheesy and like almost annoying about like some forms of like Disney movies.
Yeah.
Like I can't stand Disney movies. Like the singing and all that. Like I like Pixar shit, but I can't do there's just something about like that level of positivity that I find annoying. And that's just me being fucked up. I'm not saying that that's like
I feel no, I get it though. I'm not saying it's like no, there's an annoying level of bubbly that happens. And by the way, like I know for anybody listening, I know that I have crossed into that territory plenty of times in my life. So I have no problem acknowledging that. And I feel what you're like, I get it. Like I'm not necessarily that way, but yeah, like you see somebody who's like over the top happy, like, what the fuck is this guy so happy about?
Can I smoke with some what he's having?
Yeah, for real. I mean, yeah, and that's part of it too. I'm high half the time, so
oh, hey, let me ask you that because
yeah,
I know I'm in Iowa and it's illegal here, but you know, my whole thing is like I don't do it on the show. I don't really give a shit about talking about it. I mean, everybody that knows me, it's pretty obvious. How is it like in Chicago now it's legalized? I've heard it's like the prices are exorbitant.
Yeah, I mean, I've never bought. Oh no, I have. I bought a pack of.
Why do I keep thinking? Why do I keep thinking in Chicago?
No, but that's
Milwaukee.
cool. No, but I mean, I was there when it legalized, and like I said, I'm there all the time. So like, and you know what I mean. That's still where I
Yeah.
get my shit. But yeah, I don't know. The dispensers are so fucking expensive. It's ridiculous. I mean, I just think there's a level of it's cool that it's legal recreationally, just because like there's no thought about it. I think for the most part. I mean, obviously not supposed to smoke and drive and stuff, but like. And you're not really supposed to like walk up and down the street and smoke, but people do, and it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, that's what I love. I just love the free, open nature of hopefully where we're all gonna get soon, because that's how it should be. So
Yeah. And in my mind, that just seems like the obvious answer. When did you first start smoking? What's your story behind that?
first time I ever smoked weed, I was 12 years old, I think. Yeah, 11 or 12. But like and then so like there was a couple times, like so when we were younger, we just did a handful of times randomly. And then because I was always the youngest hanging out with a couple, all my friends were like a year or two older than me. And then I stopped like smoking regularly. I would just randomly smoke at like a party or whatever, pretty much throughout high school because basketball, like I was like fully dedicated to basketball. And actually, I got a call from a friend who was playing basketball who told me, I told this story before on a podcast, but he just called me. Basically, he just called me and he was like, "Hey, they're gonna start drug testing at school. You gotta stop smoking." I finished rolling a blunt, smoked it, and then just stopped smoking. Just stopped for like most of high school except for random parties. And then like towards the end of my college, like when I was so junior year, I started smoking again. And pretty much since then, I just been smoking. I was like 20 years old. Like the past 10 years, I just been smoking almost every single day, pretty much. Like,
yeah, that's tight, man.
I don't know about tight.
Yeah, I guess there is like the dependency, huh? And and that's kind of like where I found myself in the last couple of years, like not even really being necessarily on board with like a lot of the Jesus Christ, my fucking things. Be on board with all like the entire thing with the marijuana legalization is like there's like an extent like when you have like what is it, the moon rocks, where it's like the weed and the dabs and the keef, like there's a level where it's like just this ridiculous amount, like you have one hit and you want to get go sleep.
Yeah, but that's why I think it's important to have it legal, because there's just much more knowledge out there. So if you're gonna try that shit, like when you go there, you have people who are telling you exactly everything. And so I just think like, yeah, that level of I mean, you should know what you're getting, and like it makes everything, long term. I mean, like, the argument for me is like, oh, they're now all the white people are fucking making money off weed after they've been getting everybody in trouble for it for so long. But I mean, and that is a problem, but people are still buying from the black market. If they can figure out a way to get some dispensaries that are minority owned, then I will be really on board. That's been my biggest thing about it all. We need minority owned dispensaries and we need a lot of them. That's my big thing.
Yeah. Diversity in any market is definitely a important thing for sure. Well, shoot.
But I love weed.
Smoke weed every day. No, I as I say, the whole dependency thing, I think, Obs, going back to Obs, I think you guys both talked about this, the War on Mug song that he did. With any drug, you got to think about it, you got to think about it rationally. You got to, really think about how it affects people. Some people can handle pot and some people can't.
I agree with you. And some people, like you said, like he says coffee and all that stuff. I just don't think it's the right argument, I guess what I'd be saying. Cause like, first of all, it's definitely not, the schedule that it was as far as drugs go. It's not that harmful. And we know that, but the conversation like the fact that we're saying whether or not people can legally smoke that, to me isn't the right. That's, if you can smoke a cigarette or if you can drink a beer, it's like you can do the same harm to yourself doing that way. I'm not saying that you can't harm yourself with weed and that it's not the negative and wrong thing for some people, but so are cigarettes and so is alcohol. I just don't think it doesn't logically make sense.
Yeah, no. Making something illegal always increases the harmful nature of it.
Yeah, I kind of feel that. I mean, the real question is like, what do you do with all drugs? And I'm sure you've heard this conversation from other people. It's like, what do you do? And I don't know. I like the conversation. I think it's an interesting conversation. Like, I don't know if you could pull it off in America, but we've seen at small scale that legalization of all drugs like has some benefits. Like,
Yeah. There is something to be said about like taking that away. I guess I wonder about like the speed of it, because I think they just did it in Portland, right? They just decriminalized everything pretty
I
much.
think
Like,
you're right. Something like that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about how that's going or what's going. I guess I just wonder, like, if such a quick move is like necessarily the best. Like, is that something they can maybe like work their way towards?
Well, it would, yeah, I would imagine have to be, because I mean, I imagine what happens then is you take a lot of the money that goes into criminalizing and putting people in jails, and you put it towards rehabs, and then you put it towards. You have to have centers where people who want to take drugs can take clean drugs. You have to have that. You just have to. I think.
Yeah, safe spaces.
Yeah.
Well, it's like with heroin. Like, if somebody's ODing on heroin, it's actually really easy to stop that if somebody's there. Like, they just give them a shot and they're fine.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately it's better to keep those people safe.
Well, that's the point, right? Aren't we trying to keep everybody safe rather than just hide them? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like hide the problem away. No, I mean, yeah. So I mean, it just depends what we're doing. Are we putting a Band-Aid on it, or are we trying to fix it?
Yes, exactly. That's something we all need to be thinking about. David, I think we're hitting about an hour. I think it might be a good time to wrap it up here.
Yeah, whatever you want, man.
But hey, this has been a good time. Do you have anything you want to tell everyone before we log off here?
I mean, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. I might have to return the favor and have you on my show to do a swap time. So that'd be cool. So for sure. I guess the one highlight or announcement I'd say is I'm dropping music pretty much every week of 2021. Well, for a lot of it, maybe not the whole year, but I got a lot of shit planned. So just go to thedavidlopez.com/music, and that's where you'll find it all.
Awesome. Hey, check this guy's music out. Check out his podcast, The David Lopez Show, Passion Park Entertainment, everything going on with that. It's been a real treat. It's been a real honor. Like I said, first person outside of this Iowa idiots out walking around.
I'm proud of it.
the proud idiots walking out. Walking around. All right, man. Hey, stay on really quick. We'll just chat a little bit after this.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
See you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to today's episode with David Lopez. Really interesting conversation. It was really cool to interview somebody outside of Iowa, someone who has interviewed people like Obbs, Bang the Jet, has a very good vibe, very positive energy, and I think everyone should try to emulate him a little bit. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to have Jake True-Emperor on. We're changing up a little bit. We're having a comedian on the show. He's actually from Cedar Rapids, and I mean, he's gained a lot of his fame through the internet. But he labels himself as a comedian, so I guess I'm kind of curious to see what that's all about. Otherwise, hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Hope y'all are chilling tonight, having a good time, smoking a joint, having a beer, whatever you're all about. All right, peace out, everyone.